All right, well, shifting across the pond to the U.S. elections, and there is much debate today in the Democratic Party over what should be done following President Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance against former President Donald Trump. Now, there have been widespread calls for Biden to withdraw from the race and make way for another, perhaps more viable candidate to run against Trump. But the Biden camp has thus far rejected any notion of withdrawing from the race. Here to discuss the situation with us is Professor Gabriel Weimann of the University of Haifa. Professor Weimann, thank you so much for joining us. First off, what was your take on the presidential debate and President Biden's performance?
Well, I think contrary to most of the commentators and the experts, I wasn't that shocked. I mean, we know Biden and we know Trump. We know that Trump can lie and can attack, and we know that Biden is not that good when it comes to television. He's not a young man. Talking on TV is not easy for him. So in a way, it was expected. No surprise.
Now, there's a lot of chatter about what the Democrats should do at this point. Even some of the people who have been the biggest supporters of Biden, Thomas Friedman in the New York Times, have called to replace him. What are you hearing, and do you think it's actually possible that Biden would ever agree to withdraw?
Well, again, I'm going against the current winds, calling for his resignation or giving up the race. I think he should go. Especially since it's too late now to go back, to withdraw. But it's not the only argument. I think that, first of all, this is the first of two debates. In many debates, the first one who failed won the elections. President Obama, for example, lost the first debate. So we have another debate to look for. Second, we have 4 months. Many things can happen in those 4 months, including the court procedures for Donald Trump, and we don't know the results there and the impact. There are many events that can take place, so it's really not decided yet. And more than that, based on studies of past debates all over the world, including in Israel, Europe, and many in the US, the impact tends to fade away. First of all, the impact is not that dramatic. Even in 1962, when Kennedy won the famous debate against Nixon, he really managed, and he was really significantly much better. He managed to change the opinions of very, very few voters. So I would say that even though Biden lost, there's still 4 months. There are many things that can happen, and we have another debate to look for. And don't forget, Biden can change. He slipped, that's for sure. Will he do it again? I'm not sure.
Now, after the debate, we also saw harsh backlash from anti-Israel activists who, in fact, even held a march in New York yesterday claiming they should adopt the model of resistance, aka violence, as both candidates are staunchly pro-Israel. They then marched in NYC with Hezbollah, Houthi, Hamas flags calling for intifada. What does this kind of conduct mean for the future of American democracy, and what can be done to stop it?
Well, I've been studying anti-Semitism on social media for a long time, and we published several studies. One of the recent ones was on the role played by TikTok and videos on TikTok promoting anti-Semitism. So I'm not surprised to see the rising waves of anti-Semitism, and I don't think it is related only to the fact that we have two candidates, a president and a candidate supporting Israel. I think the US generally is supportive when it comes to Israel. Certainly, President Biden did his best after 7th of October in a very impressive, I would say even emotional way, when he came over and he supported us in more than just words. There were many actions too, and supply of ammunition and so on, let alone defending us against the Iranian attack. So I don't really see the rising anti-Semitism as a result of the recent race between the two candidates. I think this rise, which is quite significant, has to do with many other factors, and the presidents or the candidates are not the real cause for it.
Well, one of the reasons that they stated they were protesting was directly in response to the presidential debate, because they were dissatisfied with the arguments between former President Trump and current President Joe Biden about the Israel issue, including Trump's derogatory comment about being a bad Palestinian. You don't think that has any bearing on the reaction that we see from the protests now?
I've been monitoring anti-Semitism on social media for about a decade now. And I must tell you that whatever something happens, they will see it as an excuse to demonstrate. It can be an attack on a hospital in Gaza. It can be a flotilla coming from Turkey to Gaza by Hamas. Any kind of event, any kind of cause can be used as a platform. So I don't think it is really that reason for that. The movement, the hate, is already there. All they do is actually capture the moment, take the opportunity, use an event, and write on the platform.
Well, they are certainly not lacking in creativity when it comes to dealing with protests. Thank you, Professor Weimann. We are out of time, but thank you again for your insights.
Thank you for having me.